Like, I'm super risk averse and I want my copy to perform well, like once it goes live and not after it gets optimized.
Welcome to Aha Moments podcast with me, Kobi Omenaka. My guest this week is Sam Howard, who is a conversion copywriter.
What you're going to hear back is just going to be very basic stuff like, who's your product for? Where's the product screenshots? Like, prove that you will exist in 2 years.
We talk a lot on this episode about message market fit and what makes the right kind of copy convert for your customers specifically, not your competitors' customers, your customers.
You just default into writing like your competitors and like big brands you want to be like in 5 years. For early stage startups, not the best route.
It's really fascinating to hear Sam talking about, because it's something we've talked about with previous guests about speaking to your audience, speaking to your clients, speaking to potential customers. But Sam really breaks it down in this episode, and I think it's a great one to understand how that works. And also we talk in length about a platform called Wintr, which is a great option if you want to test a lot of your website copy. Sam, thank you so much for joining me on our Aha Moments podcast. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. No problem at all. So we are both on, like a couple of my recent guests have come from the Growth Mentor platform, where we mentor up and coming companies who have foundational questions, not foundational questions, but I like it because it's good to challenge my thoughts, processes, and things and thought patterns behind things. Why have you joined Growth Mentor? What kind of questions do you like from there?
Well, for me, it's more about finding patterns, because I find that the folks that reach out to me are focused on how do I get good feedback from my customers, which like there are always common traps there where like your questions are very assumption based and I'm trying to roll it back to make it less obvious what you're trying to find out. Or it's working on copy, so like workshopping it. And again, especially for early stage startups, there's always kind of a lot of common pitfalls that are there. And it's just the way things are at the early stage when you don't know nearly as much as you probably should, but you need to move forward anyway.
Do you feel like there's almost like a playbook they can have, like a 101 before they speak to you, or they start at the business, where do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then if you've done all those things, then it becomes a bit more like out of the box, interesting, not interesting because it's always interesting, but out of the box kind of thought thinking, that's terrible phraseology. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, for me, the answer is just read the mom test.
Fair enough.
For me, that's the starting point. Like, how do you think about the problem in a way that is not based in the thing that I want to build?
Yeah.
Which, like, sometimes it's perfectly aligned with what the market wants, but a lot of times the main question that I end up asking when I have those conversations about the copy is, okay, so what's in it for your readers? Like, why should they care?
Yeah. The mom test, and also for me, it is competing against luck, understanding jobs to be done, and what your customer, client, buyer is doing. What is at the core of their why when they want to connect with you. And I feel that maybe you should just have that in your intro questionnaire. Have you read the mom test? If not, read it, come back to me, and then we'll talk.
Maybe. Like, there's a lot of kind of reverse engineering happening. And I find that even if they haven't read the mom test, very often early stage startup founders, they know things, but they have not found a way to kind of translate it into their copy effectively.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's just because the easiest way to kind of write copy, if you're not a copywriter, is to be like, okay, well, what do I see online? What do my competitors say?
Yeah.
What do like aspirational brands say? And then you just default into writing like your competitors and like big brands you want to be like in 5 years. For early stage startups, not the best route, but it's really hard to change that thinking and to force yourself to like be really deliberate in what it is you put on the page.
So why? Just explain, at a high level, why is that not the route to go down? Because it does seem like an obvious way, almost like copy and steal everything, steal like an artist. This is where I want to be in 5 years. So why don't I just kind of hop straight to where they are?
Oh boy, do I have feelings about steal like an artist. Okay, let's break this down.
Sure.
So there's like frameworks that work for everybody.
Yep.
So just the architecture of the page. You don't need to reinvent the wheel there. But a lot of times we're not looking at the architecture of competitors' pages or like the angles they're taking in how they talk about their product. A lot of times it's either, well, everybody leads with AI, so I will too. So that kind of destroys your differentiation immediately, because me too copy is not helpful when you're starting out. And aspirational copywriting, sure, you could pretend to be a Figma, but you're not. Like, do you have the same logos? Do you have the same customer base?
Yeah.
Do you really work across all of those industries? If not, like, people will see that and your credibility immediately tanks.
Yes, I mean, I fully agree. I think we need to rewind a bit and understand why people ask you about these questions. So can you give me a bit of a background of how you became the go-to person to talk about copy and conversion rates and what I like to call language market fit, but you call it something else on your website?
I think I stole from Wintr.
Okay.
Surprise, surprise. Like, at some point they talked a lot about message market fit, and to me that really makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just the words, it's also like the meaning behind the words.
So what is your history before, well, becoming a copywriter and a I guess a conversion rate optimization expert? Is that what you class yourself as?
So I kind of talk about myself as conversion copywriter and strategist.
Right.
Because, like with Growth Mentor, a lot of times folks think that copywriter is strictly like a sentence level almost person to make things pretty and sprinkle some copy magic and just make it all pop on the page. So a lot of the folks in Growth Mentor who come to me start with like, we need to workshop this headline. And then we'll start working backwards to the point where it's like, is it the right thing to work on?
Yeah.
So that's the strategy part in my job title. So kind of going all the way back to the origin story. I used to be in translation localization. And once I started working more in marketing copy and specifically like web copy, promotional materials, it became really clear that the way most of the translators tend to think about this is not like, it's not about equivalency. Sure, you can create like A and B that are technically like translation correct. And they are localized to some extent in the sense that like the currency is right, the measurement units are right, whatever. But the copy is still not going to land because it's not rooted in what that specific market wants. Like if it's like if the stage of awareness is different, if the industry is less developed, if they just don't care about like the companies that are mentioned in case studies, all of that matters. But at that time that I was in that industry, it was less, so there was not a lot of focus on adapting the copy to the market.
I do have to ask, what languages were you localizing and what cultures were you localizing between?
So English to Russian, German to Russian.
Okay. Oh, nice. Oh, wow. The one thing I find fascinating is when I go on a different website in a language which I don't understand, and because the way things are now, you can typically navigate to the page you want to get to, and I find that amazing. Like purely like, it's like, I don't know, it's like magic to me that if a website's done well, and because I've been on the internet for a while, I know where to get to the thing that I want to get to, even though I don't recognize one single character of the language or the word that's there. Is that part of what you were thinking about, and did that lead into your kind of next stages, or am I putting words in your mouth?
No, I think that was not really a part of the conversation.
No problem.
Like the website structure or all of that.
Yeah.
It was just mostly, like the thing that I found frustrating was like, I can tell this is not going to work based on what I know about the culture, but there is a very limited scope for adapting the copy. Like it needs to be like by and large equivalent to what's there in the source language. So that led me into looking into, okay, but what does effective copy mean? Like, how does that actually work? How can it work? Then I found copy hackers. And I was like, wow, that answers all of my questions, and actually, I want to do that.
How did you transition from that to that now? How did you transition from the localization through to, was it simply copy hackers and you took it from there, or was it a few steps? Learning experience, jobs. Yeah,
it would be nice if I was just like overnight I just switched industries and it all worked perfectly well. Of course, that's not the case. No, I just started kind of taking on smaller marketing projects for folks in my industry, kind of helping them build their websites, build their launches, like promotional materials for their courses. So that led me more to the creation / business accelerator copy and emails, and kind of like slowly made my way towards B2B SaaS startups, realized that I want to stay here, and I've been in the B2B SaaS startup world ever since.
And were you working like as a freelancer or in-house with typical companies or agency-wide?
I've been self-employed since forever.
Oh, wow.
So it was all just like slowly making my way towards something different.
Well, that gives you a breadth of experience and breadth of companies that you work with, and different opportunities to succeed and also, I guess, fail in a way. Can you think of any examples where you smashed it out of the park with new copy or new setup or new messaging, and examples where you haven't quite struck the note you were going for?
I think that for me, the biggest learning moment was going from prescriptive, like how everybody should do things, like the right way, to understanding that like you don't always need to do all of the things.
Right.
Sometimes you just need the good enough. And a lot of that, like especially for self-employed folks, is like how many people are even going to make it to your website? Like how much time do you want to spend on this? And that was something that I had to unlearn, both for myself and for my clients at the time, where like you just need 2 months worth of research to get this right. No, you really don't.
So, I mean, what do you mean by people aren't going to make your website? Because that might be a revelation to people listening to this now. Like, hold on, I've spent so much time and effort on my website, and you're saying people aren't going to get there? Where should they spend their time and focus?
Well, where are your clients hanging out?
Yes,
I'd say go there.
That's the answer I wanted, Sam.
Oh, excellent.
It does beg the question then, how do you find out where your clients are? What's the best method to do that? I mean, I've got a straightforward answer, but it'd be good to hear from yourself. These guys listen to me talking about it all the time.
It depends on the industry. It depends on like who you're talking to. Like, I don't have to be on Facebook ever again because I work with B2B.
Yeah.
So, but there are whole industries that live there.
Yeah.
So find those groups, find out where else those folks are, start infiltrating those groups to find out more. For B2B, it can be easier, it can be complicated. Like, I don't have a like quick win answer for it. For me, starting point is always LinkedIn, then SparkToro, if I am truly lost, and good old research.
Yeah. What about in real life interactions at expos or events and things like that? How does that kind of figure in your...
Yes, if you can make it work for you.
Yeah.
As an introvert, I find that I burn out like 2 hours in. So, like, even for local events, we had like a week's worth of fascinating stuff at their Validarum startup week. And I was like, I can do one day, and then I still burned out, and I left before the like after party event thing even started. So
it does take there is a bit of skill to that, isn't there?
Yes.
And I mean, the London podcast show is around the corner as we record this. I remember last year meeting people who I hadn't seen since the pandemic started, and you could just tell they were visibly and physically like frazzled and just overwhelmed by what was going on there. Nothing like super bad bit going on, but you could just tell they were overwhelmed. And I was like, okay, I'll speak to you later. Maybe go outside, get some fresh air, go and listen to a podcast by yourself, sit in a corner. But it does weigh on people's minds and consciousnesses. That, and I know some people who really like have to amp themselves up before there's an event, and like I said, the burnout, the candle burning out really quickly is something I have seen evidently happening in those events.
Yes, that's me.
So you tell us about your involvement with Wintr. Can you give us a bit of background with Wintr? Because I think I've never been able to use it myself, because every time that an email comes out saying, hey, we need some help, the opportunities have gone like that. So that gives an indication to me that it's an exciting platform to be on and be a part of and help with. But can you give us some background to that?
Sure. So I don't really remember when exactly I found out about Wintr, but it was really early on. And I remember being like, oh my God, I need this in my life right now. Because I'm super risk averse, and I want my copy to perform well, like once it goes live and not after it gets optimized. So for me, the question, how can I de-risk the launch, is a big one. And that's why I kind of glommed onto Wintr and was following them and playing with their platform whenever I could ever since.
So can you explain what Wintr is and how it works for people?
Sure.
Yeah.
So they've expanded somewhat, but the way, like the most useful application for me is you take your existing page, website page, landing page, and you put it in front of your audience. So ICPs, but cold ICPs.
Yep.
Most likely they don't know who you are, what you sell. So they're just going in cold. And you get to highlight specific areas and choose a set of questions that would then be answered by those folks. And it's super useful things for people that are like me writing copy. So stuff like, do you find this credible? What, if anything, do you find like objectionable or not landing quite right?
Yeah.
How interested are you in booking a demo with this product? What's still unclear? Like, does it make sense overall?
Yeah.
What would you want to know before you jump on a call? So stuff like that. And it's qualitative data. So it's not just like people saying like 0 stars out of 5. What's wrong with you people? It's also, in many cases, like going really deep into this claim makes no sense because I do things this way.
Yeah.
And you're saying I should do them this way. And honestly, nobody in my industry would ever even consider doing this because reasons.
That shortcuts your research from a conversion copywriter perspective and all kinds of marketers' perspective, right?
Yes. So I would not use this as a... There are cases when you can just like dump the existing page into Wintr and see what comes back. But it like the risk of getting feedback that's very surface level is high in this scenario.
Right.
Like, especially for early stage startups, if you're doing this and like your page is like, I want to be like Figma, what you're going to hear back is just going to be very basic stuff like, who's your product for? Where's the product screenshots? Like, prove that you will exist in 2 years. So all of those things, most of the folks that are working in the industry can kind of tell you are broken without running through a Wintr test. And the problem with Wintr, the only problem with Wintr is that it's not cheap. So, like, if you want to use it, you got to make it count.
Yeah.
Unless you are like you have the budget for a subscription, you just can just like throw iteration after iteration through feedback loop and really focus on like tweaking it versus just building something new.
And the reason it's not cheap is because they do pay people. Like I'm on the customer side of Wintr, I guess. Well, no, maybe the customers use some kind of use. I'm not sure what participant side. Yeah, where I've joined up to Wintr, and anyone can do this. Fill in a form, say, yeah, I want to be told about where websites that are in my niche or in my area, and you'll get paid to review the website in the way that you've talked about there, you know, giving qualitative answers to these questions. But one thing, guys, if you do sign up to this, you have to be very, very quick because they get snapped up really quickly. And it's not because it's a payment thing. For me, it's more like an interesting. I want to see what's going on there, really. I want to just have a go. So I think I've been summons at least 5 times and I've missed every single time because it just does go that quickly. And you have to be on your computer as well. You can't be on your mobile to do it, which is when I typically see the emails. So I'm like, I've not tried it yet. I really want to have a go. But that's... What kind of insights have you had from that? Has there been things where you're like, oh, of course, that makes sense?
So, yeah, and I guess, again, that's just because of the way I use it.
Yeah.
The, oh no, how did I miss that moments will mostly happen if you're dumping the existing page where you don't even know what's broken. You're just like, please tell me. So then there's likely going to be something really obvious where you're like, oh,
yeah.
And then like things like your headline makes 0 sense. And like, especially if you're a team that has been doing all of this copywriting internally, when you're just like, all right, let's workshop this.
Yeah, when you kind of siloed.
And then it's like 5 different people, trying to find something that everybody likes. Like once you get through that, like the odds of you having a headline that only makes sense internally are really high.
Yeah.
For me, the moments tend to be more on the internal decisions where like sometimes it's hard to see the label from inside the bottle,
right,
as they say. So anything from the way you define your category, Like, to you, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, this is where you feel like you should plant your stake and just go after it. And then the feedback comes back and they're like, we really feel that you don't belong in this solution category.
Okay.
Or, like, for example, the way you talk about your product and kind of those keywords you plant in the hero section really affect the way that your audience perceives the rest of the copy. So I've had cases where people are like, yeah, super interested. This sounds exciting. So the internal team's like, yay, we got high scores. We did it. And then you start looking into the qualitative feedback and you realize that the way they understand your product is not correct. Like, they think it solves a very different set of problems and does like something totally different from what it actually does. So then it's an oops for me, and it's also an oops for, well, we can't talk about this category because then it means we're just not, like, we're framing it in a way that makes it hard to understand what the product does.
I mean, that categorization thing is important across a whole different bunch of levels. Like, so as a podcaster, you can choose which category you want to be in, but it's quite a big thing. I was speaking to the guys at Apple Podcasts that some podcasts have put themselves in a category that which clearly isn't for themselves. That's partly because of their fault, because honestly, trying to sift through the different categories you can be in is tough, and it's almost like, fuck it, I'll just put myself in that one. But then that limits your growth. But then there's like categorizations like with plant-based milk, for example. That tends to sit next to the dairy milk because that's what people associate. But the dairy industry were like, no, you're not milk. You should be over there somewhere else. But, you know, obviously the plant-based milk people are fighting to be in that same space because they are. That's where people associate. People put it into the tea. They put it on the cornflakes. So for all intents and purposes, it's the same category. But people find that it's not the same category.
Yeah. And the opposite situation is when a startup is trying to really go with this whole building category of one idea, and then they're like, oh no, nobody understands what we do when we talk about it this way. I think, which, again, it's better to catch it before you go live with that copy.
Yeah, I mean, this is what Wintr's for. What is your involvement with Wintr? Are you just a super user, or is it a bit deeper than that?
No, I am not affiliated in any way.
Sure.
I just feel like Wintr is really underused by the folks for whom it might possibly be the most effective way to stop second guessing themselves.
Yeah. Is that something you recommend to people on Growth Mentor?
Not always, sometimes. So a bit of a maybe contrarian opinion. Early stage startups should stay away from Wintr until they really understand their audience, understand who they're talking to, and have built a website or even a page that is rooted in that information. Because otherwise you just get like garbage in, garbage out. You will get feedback that's super high level, or like worst case scenario, people will be those like armchair expert respondents who are like, well, you know, if I were you, this is what I would do.
Yep.
And like, you can't use this feedback because it's not feedback. It's just people telling you what to do without any context beyond your page. I'm just like, nope.
I mean, I love the fact that you've come here to champion a platform you use. I think it's astonishing. This may lead into this. I don't know. It may feature in the aha moments questions, but let's head to those questions now. This podcast is called Aha Moments. So I ask you 3 questions, the same 3 questions I ask everyone else. The first question is, can you think of an aha moment in a product or service that you have worked in that has benefited your clients, and how do you get your clients to that point as soon as possible?
Sure. Well, let's just go with Wintr as an example. This is the as fast as possible part.
Yeah.
Right. So it's 2 days turnaround. An example I can think of is, and it's actually not just one client, it's like that I've worked with where we have used Wintr as a part of validation. It's blind spots. So for me, this is what it's about. Internally, you are going to have blind spots just because you're so committed to the product, and like you have preconceived notions about how your industry works, how customers buy, like what they care about. In most cases, they're not wrong. That it's a yes and situation. Yeah. And when I come in as an external expert, like I go through research, talk to your customers, talk to your product sales, marketing. So I might have a slightly different point of view, and maybe we will be able to like uncover things that are slightly different these days from what you believe your customers want, need, or look for on your website. But it's still like educated guesses,
Yeah.
and we will not really know until the page is live and we can see how it performs. The gap here is like educated guess versus blind spots versus what's out there. And for me, many aha moments are the things that are missing on the page that you wouldn't know you need unless you got that qualitative feedback.
Yeah.
Like if it's something that is in terms of design that's off, it's fixable. You can see it on session recordings or in heat maps, like when people think the page is and there's like still like half of the page there and just people assume doesn't exist because they think it's the end of the page. It's like confusing visual elements that can be fixed. But if we don't know what's not there, it's super hard to find this once the page is live.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, like you can ask people, hey, is there anything missing? But like, to be real, how many times do you answer those pop-up exit intent surveys?
I mean, how do you know? It's difficult to know what's missing until you like see what. Oh yeah, that's not there. Okay, fine. Yeah, we need one. You need one of those because that's better. That's better if you have one than not having one. It's such an abstracted question, and as an expert, this is where people coming externally into a company. That discovery period is really important for both sides, for you as the external expert to upskill yourself for the company, but also for the people within the team to validate that so that they can explain it to someone who's has got a bit more insight, but also maybe not your ideal customer. And if you can explain it to them, to the external person, that carries a lot of weight. And if they're struggling, I mean, do you have times where people are struggling to explain it to you and you're kind of like, I don't think this is it. Yeah, I don't think you've got to the core of what's going on with your company. I don't really think you've explained it to me correctly, or you have to have a lot more follow-up questions because it's not clear, or it doesn't like click in your mind.
Well, that's more of a growth mentor situation where
Sure.
I'm like, I think I understand what you're saying, and maybe there's a way to be more clear and or benefit oriented in the way you talk about this. For the folks I work with, it's more like once people get on the demo, they get what it is that we do and they're interested. But they have some, like we get a lot of people who are not a fit because our web copy confuses them into thinking that we do something else.
Yep.
And like an extreme example would be a B2B company that got a lot of B2C prospects because they thought that was some kind of like a neighborhood community building situation. They know they're not presenting their solution the way they should. So it's either confusing or just not hitting those points where customers would go, oh my God, I need this now.
So before they get to a winter test, which sounds like a great name, one recurring theme on this podcast is making sure you speak to your customer as many times as possible. And like the mom test, essentially.
Yeah.
It's going back to that, isn't it? It's like speak to them, speak to as many as possible, extract from that what you can before then going to something like Wintr. Ideally, maybe before coming to someone like yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a yes and. So I think there's a lot of confusion for startups about what talking to your customers means.
Right.
I've had founders believe that sales calls provide all the context they need. To some extent, this can be true, but a sales call exists in a very specific context where there's less motivation for your prospects to share the actual information, like their thoughts, because they just assume you'll use that to keep selling at them. So I find that like research first interviews tend to have less of that, even if it's a closed lost opportunity, because they know you're not coming back to haunt them forever.
Yeah. And then they can just be open and honest as far as they are, as far as they understand, as far as they're perceived. Yeah, that's completely fair. The amount of when I've done those closed lost conversations, first of all, they tend to be a bit harder to get because people don't want to have anything else to do with you. But when you can have those conversations, they can be super insightful.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is that like they don't feel like they need to hide as much. So for example, if they say that the budget was an issue, you can really dig into what they mean by that, because that's like one of those ballooning categories where it can be anything from, we'll just say that so you go away to, we couldn't really see the ROI on this, to, it feels like it would take us too long to implement.
Yeah.
So being able to uncover what's under the hood can be really important.
Let's go to the second aha moment question, which is, can you think of a product or service that you've bought into? And what was the aha moment for you for that?
And I'm desperately trying to come up with something that is not Wintr because I already talked about that so much. Okay, so a recent thing that I bought for my business is Lime One.
What's that?
And it's basically a way to tame your LinkedIn feed.
Oh, wow.
So
tell me about this. My LinkedIn feed is...
Yes, of course. I think everybody is in the same boat. It's just like, whoa, please stop. So, I have two goals for my LinkedIn. One, make it less crazy because I have to leave after 5 minutes on it. It's just too much. And two, stop wasting time on setting up my custom search filters. And because there are people I want to hear from. Mm-hmm. They're just buried under all of those video shorts I don't want to see in my feed.
And the people proposing to their fiancés and telling you about it.
Everything I've learned about B2B.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a thing. Yeah, so Lime One basically helps you set up reminders. Hey, you might want to check on this person, or you might want to follow up with this person, which I find really useful because there's a lot of cool folks I like to follow and they don't post every day. So
yeah,
constantly refreshing my filters is not fun. And the second thing is that they let you just see clean feed, which is also search settings inside LinkedIn. It's just easier to click it and just read what you need to read as opposed to all the things thrown at you. So for me, it was LinkedIn doesn't have to be crazy.
So what's that? Lime, L-I-M for mother, E1?
Yes.
Okay. Like the fruit?
Yes, for some reason. But, I'll go with it.
Yeah, I mean, if it sticks in your head, I'm going to head straight to that as soon as we finish this conversation because my LinkedIn feed is all over the place. And because I went through a phase of just accepting everyone, and that means my feed is nonsense. And I'm like, why is this guy still telling me about stuff? I don't even know when I connected with him. So yeah, I love the idea of that. And the final question is, can you think of a personal aha moment or life hack that you'd like to share with the listeners and viewers of this podcast?
Yeah, I think it's thinking about experimentation in life as opposed to just sure, we can run experiments at work. Let's test this. I think it's several books that all merge together, books, podcasts. Jonathan Fields is the one who's talking about this most recently. I also really like Pivot. I think it's Jenny Blake. And another book that I don't remember the title or the authors, but about design thinking for life/career building. Maybe it'll come back, but I'm not sure. No promises.
Oh, no problems. But you say about experimenting for your life. What does that mean in kind of real terms? Is there any concrete examples you have there?
Yeah. So I will use my oldest, who is turning 15, as an example. High school, career advisors are very vocal at this time of life. U.S. high schools, and it can be really stressful because I don't know what it was like for you, but at 14, I had some vague ideas of what I want to do with my life, but nothing specific. So there's a lot of pressure to be well, what do I do?
Yeah.
What do I want to do?
I mean, when you're 14, 15, the job you do now, did it even exist?
No.
And
I don't think so.
And I can't see that not being a thing. I can't see 20 years time, there'll be jobs that don't exist now, which are well, my career advisor didn't tell me about this, so I didn't know to plan for it.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of pressure to commit to a thing.
Yeah.
And at the same time, is that thing even going to be relevant in 5 years? Let alone 20 years? Or
do you want to be doing that thing going down the line? I mean, my first career I was an engineer. I was a chemical engineer working in the oil and gas industry. Completely different to what I do now. And a previous guest on this podcast, she was a lawyer. And she was one of those people. She was at 14, I want to be a lawyer, became a lawyer, did all the things, was really, really good at it. But then she also had this actually want to do this now, and went and did that. So she's one of those outliers who had a clear pathway, but then still pivoted. So, I mean, this pressure to determine the rest of your life at 14 is what my parents did to me. But I hope I never do that, imprint that on my kid, because that's potentially unnecessarily terrifying.
Yeah, it does feel terrifying. So a lot of, like, at this point, I am banned from talking about career choices. But we got to the point when it's like, look, you don't have to know. And at the same time, you can do small things to decide on which things you don't like already.
Yeah.
Like, medical field is a hard nope because people are gross. They have fluids and stuff. So we also were able to kind of sort out visual design, which I'm kind of happy about because it doesn't look like with AI, I don't know what's going on there. And like what a career in visual design is even going to look like. So
you're kind of staying away from those fields. I mean, that is the my dad's a doctor, so I did a few days with him in the hospital and also did some days with physiotherapists. And I was like, you know what? Not for me. And being open to be able to have that kind of testing opportunities to test. I think that sounds like a lot of what you're saying then is what I did. And I definitely recommend other people do that and get the real lowdown as to what really is involved in those fields.
Yeah, exactly. Like, do you really want to do this particular thing day in, day out for a period of time?
And elimination is as important as like trying to decide on a specific direction. So at no point did I ever think I wanted to be a lawyer. I was like, no, that just sounds horrible. Accountancy, that sounds like the worst. And then it kind of narrowed down your field, and it had some options that were available to me, and I kind of went down those routes for a bit. And I think experimentation for your kid's life for the future sounds amazing.
Yeah, and I think like I changed careers, and probably everybody will have to adapt to new things in some form anyway. So instead of like you don't have to go all in, but what are the small tests you can run to decide whether or not that's even something that you want to explore?
Have you got a general outlook for your kids? I mean, this is coming as a father here, as to like how to best navigate the next 10, 15, 20 years career-wise.
I think just being comfortable with figuring it out.
Yeah.
And I'm really like low-level resentful of the pressure in high school right now because they're like, no, you need to choose wisely. Like, yes, and also maybe critical thinking and like, is college even the right thing?
Yeah, 100%.
No, like it's just given as a default.
Yeah.
And should it be? Should it be right now? Or maybe it's a like 5 years down the line thing when you actually know what it is you want to do?
I think it's,
instead of having a party experience of your life?
It's a key. I mean, my kid's only 5, so we're nowhere near there yet. But if he turned around to me now and said, well, sorry, when he gets to that kind of age and says, I don't want to go to college because I want to do X, Y, Z, I'd be like, yeah, fine. But if this was me 20 years ago saying, no, you're going to university and you're going to study something.
Cool.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever that might be. But I think, that critical thinking, that ability to figure it out, I think it's just what we need. The websites didn't exist when I first went to school. And now it's my life, it's my livelihood. Who knows what's going to happen in 5 years' time, let alone 10 years, let alone 50 years. It's like, that pressure to decide is not right. This is not right at all, is it?
Yeah. And also it creates this like perceived cost of like, you have to get this right. And you have to be like really deliberate. Really, you can switch majors. You can decide to drop out. You can decide to study something else afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be so, like, the decision of your lifetime pressure.
I mean, it is important, sure, but hey, let's be more pragmatic, especially with the way the world is, the rate of change in the world. Obviously, if you want to be a doctor, 100%, then you that's the route. It's kind of nice if that's all you want to do is all you ever want to do is be a doctor. Then that's the route you need to go down. It's kind of clearly marked out for you. But if you're not sure, then why commit to being, why commit to law? Why commit to majoring in law? That's going to be a tough route if you're not 100% into that lifestyle and wanting to be that for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Sam, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks so much. Are you happy for people to contact you on LinkedIn and visit your website?
Yes, absolutely.
So I'll link to those in the show notes. And please, guys, do question Sam. Everything about was it measurement market fit? What was the term? I got it wrong.
Message market fit.
Yes. So do question Sam about message market fit, because for me, it's something I've recently known it as language market fit, but for that for me has been a game changer. When someone first told me about that, I was like, yeah, that completely makes sense. Use the words that your customers are saying in your copy.
Yeah.
It's not that hard to do, but people don't do it. And I don't do it for a lot of my things. And when I do it, it's like, yeah, that's way better.
Yeah, it's hard to switch that habit, and it's also sometimes hard to kind of let go of the preconceived notions of what B2B web copy should be like.
Yeah.
Like supercharged, AI powered, etc.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Sam. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, dear listener, dear viewer, for listening to this episode of Aha Moments podcast. If you want to get in contact with Sam, all the details for her are in the show notes or in the YouTube description, if that's how you're watching this podcast episode. It was a pleasure speaking to Sam, and I learned a lot in this, and I hope you guys did too as well. Whilst you're here, whilst I still have you, please do all the things that podcasters love you to do. Subscribe, share with one friend, and review, and leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube. It really does help me and the podcast get a bit more traction, and helps more eyes and ears get on this show, and that really does help me everything going forward as well. So thanks for your time now, and thanks for your time in the future. I'll see you in the next episode.